said is a drama. It is based on the real events surrounding the beginnings of the Me Too movement in 2018. It's about the New York Times investigation of allegations against famed film producer Harvey Weinstein and his company Miramax. It follows Jodie Cantor and Megan Twohey, played by Zoe Kazan and Carrie Mulligan, two intrepid New York Times reporters who are supported by her editors. One of the editors, played by Andre Brower, Dean Beckett, and everyone at the New York Times is supporting them in their work in this investigation, which not only led them to talk to women who had whispered about being raped by Harvey Weinstein, who had said things. Ashley Judd actually plays herself in the movie. And it shows them going through this investigation that led them to travel all over the world to track down the women in person to get them to speak on the record about allegations about Harvey Weinstein, women being paid off to keep silent, women who worked for Harvey Weinstein and witnessed these things. And this is a very good movie in the vein of All the President's Men and the film Spotlight. It makes heroes of the journalists. It makes heroes of the New York Times. We'll get into that later. What I did like about the film quite a bit is I like these kinds of films. It plays out like a thriller. It takes the subject matter very seriously. It also is not a cartoony version of the events. There's an actor, Mike Houston, who actually plays Harvey Weinstein. They don't actually ever show his face, but body-wise, and the voice actor they got to play him sounds like dead on like Harvey Weinstein. So Harvey Weinstein's in the movie, but you don't really see his face. He's a presence throughout the film. But what I did like about the film is this is not an all men are bad movie, right? What the movie takes the time to do, which is really important, this film takes the time to show the home lives of both of the female journalists, Jodie and Megan, played by, again, Zoe Kazan and Carrie Mulligan. They show their home lives. They're not only both in healthy marriages with supportive husbands who are good men. These are good men. They help with the household. I don't know. Are there any households that are a so-called old school traditional where men do certain things and women do certain things? I think it's a little bit more, a little bit more mixed in terms of responsibilities. I think still men kill all the spiders in households. I think that is just something that's never going to go away. But they show that their home lives, and so you get behind these women who are, going above and beyond their 9-to-5 job to track down this story. You also see that both of them are mothers. Carrie Mulligan's character, Megan Twohey, is a new mother, giving birth. She has a new baby and whatnot. Jodie Cantor, she has a young daughter, and you see through their home lives. This is very important. They spend a lot of times with the home lives of the journalists, and I think it's really important that they do, because it shows the motivation for why they're so relentless about going after Harvey Weinstein. Okay. Because they see their daughters and they see the women and how traumatized they are. One woman was very promising writer, at the beginning of her career. She had written a screenplay and Harvey wanted to talk to her about the screenplay, and then she was never creative again. She gave up her entire career. She was so traumatized by her experience at Miramax and with Harvey Weinstein. And so by showing the home lives of these characters and their relationships with their husbands, their relationships with their children and their daughters, you see, there's a reason they're going after it. It's not just a job. It's something needs to change. Something needs to change in this industry so that this doesn't happen. So, and also what I did like about the film, there's only one bad man in the whole movie. It's Harvey Weinstein. and I'm really glad that the film went out of its way to just the film is surrounded by good men in the work lives of the journalists and in the home lives. All of that is really well laid out, and you see that that becomes the motivation to see this not happen again. Now, um, the movie is excellent. It is really, I really enjoyed it. I would rate it somewhere between a 7 and an 8. And if you like movies like Spotlight or All the President's Men, you're going to love this film. Reality check. This movie is going to tank. And I'll tell you why. The movie is going to tank because people don't want to see a movie that celebrates New York Times journalists at a time when the New York Times credibility is in question. Okay. Additionally, I believe that the Me Too movement has overreached, and none of that is covered in the film. This is solely about Harvey Weinstein and breaking that case and the result of that. Okay. So the movie's going to tank for the same reasons that movies about 9/11 bombed at the box office at that time. 9/11, horrible event that affected all of us. America's innocence was lost that day. And Hollywood saw fit to rush out some movies, some of them very good. The one about Flight 93. Is it Flight 93? Alan,
Yeah.
could you look that up? Uh, that movie I thought was very good. But a lot of these other 9/11 movies, I had no desire to see them about 9/11. Something about it, it was too soon. It didn't seem right. Monetizing that tragedy. And I believe that the general movie going public will reject this movie. Hollywood made this movie for themselves. Okay. Hollywood made this movie to give themselves a pat on the back to see, to show the world, hey, hey, everybody, you know that stuff you heard about actresses in Hollywood and all that stuff was happening? Well, we made a movie about it, and it's not us. It's not, nope, oh, it's all done. Nothing to see here. You can go away now. All good. Well, so this movie is going to do incredibly well when it comes to awards. You're going to hear about it a lot. You might be shamed into seeing it because how could you not see this film? It's so important. But I'll say, excellent movie. But something about my gut when I walked out of the film, I'm thinking, New York Times sure came off well. It just, and Hollywood made this movie basically almost as a way to kind of absolve themselves of sins of the past, so to speak. Having said that, I started Film Threat in 1985. I moved to Los Angeles in 1989. I sold Film Threat to Larry Flint in 1991, where he owned it for about 5 years. And I published the magazine was published by Larry Flint during that period of time. And I moved to Hollywood, and I thought the idea of the casting couch was like this far gone thing. Like it was something from the 1940s when directors, wore those hats and jogfords and like something that didn't exist, right? Come to meet a bunch of actresses in Hollywood and find out, oh, this casting couch thing is that's just how the industry works. So I met with a writer named Josh Allen Friedman. And Josh Allen Friedman, Drew Friedman's brother, by the way, Drew Friedman, the famous artist. You might know who Drew Friedman is. Josh Allen Friedman was a writer from Texas who began writing a column in Film Threat called Tales from the Casting Couch, where he would interview actors and actresses about the casting couch. Now, let me just say, we ran this column in Film Threat for about 2 years. Different writers wrote it. I always fought for this. I worked with, and I'm not telling you like this is also coming from the guy who I will give you a serious analysis of a film, and then we'll do juvenile humor. Okay. I'm not saying I'm any sort of even, I'm not, it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I don't want to do that. I just want to say, here's what I want to say. I noticed this, and I'm nobody, and I noticed this when I moved to Los Angeles back in the late 80s, early 90s. I saw that this was happening. And we wrote a column in film. We had a column in Film Thread. A bunch of different writers took it on. We interviewed Rhonda Shearer. Do you know who Rhonda Shearer is? She had a show on USA called Up All Night. And she admitted to being raped in our column. Now, the worst thing was I was working with Alan Isaacman, who was the lawyer at LFP at the time when Larry Flynt was publishing the magazine. And Larry Flynt was all behind this column, right? Like, let's expose Hollywood. Here's the problem. Legally, we always had to write around who the identities of the people were. And it was shocking because it wasn't just women, it was men. In particular, the Me Too movement has specifically focused on one thing: heterosexual white males. I hate using the word cis, so I'm not going to do it. I don't like those terms. Those terms are kind of not using it. So basically, it's focused on heterosexual white men. This is as rampant in the gay community. Okay. There are a lot of cases that come to mind and names that come to mind, and you know who they are. There's been no gay version of the Me Too movement, has there? And all I'm saying is, as much as Hollywood wants to pat itself on the back, things are different, folks. I would say that I don't think things have changed. I think this is still happening quietly. And it's been happening since I moved here and noticed it and wrote this column. Now, that led to, and I had to find the video, Geraldo Rivera actually did an episode of his television show where he interviewed the writer from Film Threat, Josh Allen Friedman, had him on the show, and he talked about it. I'll just show you a quick clip.
Torrid Tales from the casting couch. Thank you. Josh, you're on.
I don't think people sleep to get into off-Broadway shows or off-Broadway shows. And Broadway is a little too serious, but a lot of it goes on from the people I interview. A lot of it goes on in California.
Most of your complaints come from?
L.A. The most sharks are in L.A. One of my recent columns involves a woman who had to go into therapy after her 12 weeks on a movie, and it was a medium-budget karate film in which the leading man for 12 weeks was hitting on her night and day and driving her crazy, and she was afraid to leave because it was her first movie. But even in her one semi-nude scene in the tub with the star of this Bruce Lee imitation film, the guy was jamming his foot into her bathing suit while the cameras were rolling. Any used car salesman can become a producer if he bankrolls a low-budget film or a video and can put an ad in the Village Voice and say Madonna lookalikes, open call.
Okay, so that was from the early 90s with Geraldo Rivera. This caught the attention of the local Fox News. There was a reporter there who really liked Film Threat and what we were doing. She was kind of punk rock. Lori Pike at Fox Local News in Los Angeles learned that we were doing this column. I don't know how much of this I should play. It's a little long, but I'd like you to check this out. Maybe I'll take the time to go grab an extra cup of coffee. But here's a clip from Lori Pike's report. And just a warning in this, a shocking warning. You're going to see early 90s me. And you're going to see what my hair looked like then and what I looked like. And it was sort of one of the first times I'd ever been on television. Even for local news, I was kind of nervous about it. And we'll talk about it after the clip. I'm just going to show you this. It's about 3 minutes long or so. So I'll just show it. It speaks for itself. But again, a warning about my hair.
And try to sort this problem out in the so-called Year of the Woman. After all, this industry has been very progressive with issues regarding censorship and gay rights. But sexual harassment, it seems, remains an invisible evil that Hollywood cannot shed.
You come over to my house tonight, and I'll just forget the whole thing.
You are disgusting.
Hollywood and sexual harassment go hand in hand, according to many of its victims, most of them too scared of being blackballed to come forward and accuse their big-name perpetrators.
You get an agent and they try to prepare you, get ready because you're entering the jungle, and you just have to learn to deal.
This actress says she faces it all the time. A producer tried to engage her in sexual phone calls. An audition for a feature film turned strange.
I go inside, camera set up. They start, slowly asking me questions, very, very personal questions about my sex life. And eventually I just burst into tears.
But when a casting agent flat out asked for sex as part of an audition, she decided to report him to her union, the Screen Actors Guild. She got no help.
I just didn't know who to send me to or what to do.
SAG addressed sexual harassment in its newsletter last fall and can refer victims to lawyers, but has no task force for what many see as a rampant crime in Hollywood. This film magazine even dedicates a monthly column to victim stories. They are so plentiful.
We started the column about a year ago, specifically because I noticed a trend in Hollywood having a lot of friends who are actresses, of actresses being harassed.
Editor Chris Gore says the problem is aggravated by the number of people willing to give sex for movie roles and record deals.
There's just as much on the other side of the desk and the other side of the couch, which is the producer actually being offered sex for a role.
Sex sells in this business. That adds to the problem.
In the entertainment community, there appears to be even more emphasis on women as sex objects than elsewhere. And when women are constantly being viewed as sex objects, it does lap over to the treatment of women behind the camera and in the workplace, which supports those people who are in front of the camera.
Almost everyone I spoke with for this story said sexual harassment is worse in the entertainment industry than it is in the business community at large. So tomorrow we're going to take a look at some of the reasons why and look at some entertainment companies who are doing something about it.
Serious issue here.
It's interesting to note that in a liberal industry, it's worse there than it is in industry.
Believe it or not.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Lori.
So let me turn my camera on here. Sorry, I'm making coffee. All right. So that was about 1993. That was 1993, 94. Okay. And the only person, look, by the way, so this is 25 years before the Me Too movement. Film Threat was writing a column about this. Okay. So has it changed? No. But did it become a big thing in 1993 and 1994? Our column was virtually ignored. No one cared. There's another report. I'll show it later. I'll show it later if we continue this discussion next week. But let's just go to the comments.
Yeah.
So, Alan, I don't like to be big all the time.